It's really dire. UN agencies have described it as a humanitarian catastrophe that's unfolding in Gaza. You heard Sam mention it, shelters, hospitals, overcrowded, and there are severe shortages, even at hospitals, food, fuel, water, medicine. And not enough aid is getting through. For some analysis, let's turn to Steve Sosebee. He's president and founder of the Palestinian Children's Fund. Steve, aid trucks from UN and the World Health Organization have managed to get some aid into Gaza. Has your organization been successful in getting your own aid in? I understand you had trucks ready to go in.
Yeah, not at this time due to the restrictions that have been imposed on trucks entering the Gaza Strip. Only a small number are able to actually enter Gaza, while the need is far greater than what has actually been coming in. Gaza, prior to October 7th, had around 500 trucks coming in daily, and that we have to remember that everything that's required in Gaza needs to be imported, whether it's food, whether it's water, medication. Everything is basically imported into Gaza. Therefore, the entire population depends on this aid coming in from outside. And the number of trucks that have been coming in on a regular basis are less than 5% of what is actually needed to meet the humanitarian needs of the population there, whether it's food, water, medicine, and other basic needs. It falls far short of what is actually needed. And organizations like ours who would have trucks ready to go are not able to get them in because of the severe limitation of access across the border.
So who calls the shots, forgive me for using that pun, but who ultimately decides, what country decides whether your aid trucks will go in or not?
It's between the Egyptians and the Israelis at the border. The Israelis approve what enters, and the Egyptians are the ones who approve what goes to the border. So it's a coordination factor. The Israelis ultimately have the say in what enters Gaza. They can get rid of and have removed from shipments some things that they felt were either a threat or did not meet whatever their standards were for aid coming in. So it's ultimately up to the Israelis. They have the final control of trucks entering through the crossing from Egypt. But also the Egyptians are the ones who are controlling which organizations are able to get their aid up to the line to be able to cross.
So what are you hearing from your teams or partner organizations on the ground about the enormous needs and challenges, some of which our reporter in Jerusalem described?
Well, the needs are overwhelming, and it's hard to pinpoint one that is the most urgent, although I would suspect food and water for children is pretty critical. However, the overall security situation for people in general, for example, the last bakery that was operating and producing food in Gaza City is shut down. So there is no food that is coming into Gaza City for the hundreds of thousands of people there. And we're getting reports every day, and people are asking if we can find ways to get food to people who are still stuck in Gaza City and unable to cross. As you saw from the videos that you showed prior, people have to walk across this border, and you have many elderly people or injured people or sick people who are not able to cross that border because they're not able to walk. They're stuck in Gaza City. They don't have food. And in addition, the security situation on the ground there with the deepening incursion of the Israeli military into Gaza City is only worsening the overall humanitarian crisis. But overall, to pinpoint one specific area, it's food, water, medication, anesthesia supplies, and basic necessities, which otherwise would be taken for granted, are not available to the vast majority of people, including children. And as a result, we're seeing outbreaks of diseases. We're seeing children going without pain medication and anesthesia even being applied during surgery for patients in the hospital. We've heard of amputations taking place in the hospitals without anesthesia even. So you can imagine this is a nightmare scenario. It's not a growing humanitarian crisis. It's actually a significant current humanitarian crisis.
And Steve, the numbers we have, over 10,500 people have now been killed. 40% of them are children. The UN has called this Gaza basically a children's graveyard. But for the children who do survive the bombings, what is life like for them?
Well, we have to see what's coming next. But right now, it's a nightmare. You have children living in crowded schools, living in tents, living in warehouses, living in inadequate shelters. Winter's coming upon them. They don't have adequate clothing. They don't have food. They don't have clean water. They're not going to school. This is over 1 million children. In addition to that, they're being traumatized every single day with the sounds of bombing, the killing of their relatives, they themselves being injured. Over 10,000 children have been injured already. They're quite familiar with this terrible nightmare situation, only getting worse every single day. And the long-term consequences on the entire population of Gaza, particularly the children, is in itself a nightmare. They're going to be emotionally traumatized their entire lives. Are they going to have their homes rebuilt? Are they going to be able to go back to school? Are they going to be able to live a life that has some form of security and not having to constantly be under the threat of death and destruction? The children of Gaza have been subjected to one of the most unimaginably inhumane conditions that have occurred in recent memory, and they're ongoing, and they're only going to get worse.
We'll have to leave it there. Steve Sosebee, thank you very much.